to Road to Success, a show that highlights people and the steps that they took on their road to success. I'm so excited to be joined today with Jessica Fuller. Thank you so much for being with me.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Excited to be here.
You are a successful businesswoman here in the Capital Region. You have built a health and wellness empire here. For folks who aren't familiar with your businesses, tell me a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, so I own the Hot Yoga Spot. I founded that in 2010, so we're going into 15, 16 years now. We have 6 locations across the Capital Region in Albany, East Greenbush, Glenmont, Clifton Park, Latham, and Saratoga. And at the Hot Yoga Spot, we do all sorts of hot yoga classes. We do bar fitness, we do hot Pilates, sculpt, gentle yoga, all sorts of stuff like that. 200 classes a week across the 6 studios. Yeah, it's a lot of classes, a lot of amazing teachers. We see so many students every single day. And the Hot Yoga Spot's really great. A lot of people think like it's just a type of workout, or it's just, you know, I can't do it if I'm not flexible. But honestly, we have so many people that take class there that are coming because they want to increase their flexibility, or they're coming because they're having a hard time sleeping at night, or they're trying to get over the loss of a job or, you know, a relationship or something like that. Yoga is such a holistic approach to wellness. So the Hot Yoga Spot's really special because so many people come for so many different reasons and can really find kind of whatever it is that they need from our classes, which is great. And then I also co-own Bear Blends, which is a totally different concept, but caters to a lot of the same people. That is a cafe it was founded locally right in Stuyvesant Plaza was the first location. We're most famous for our smoothie bowls, but we do a lot of different stuff now. We do smoothies, we do juice, wraps, avocado toast, coffee, stuff like that. So I am somewhat involved in some other businesses, but those are the 2 that I'm probably most well known for.
Is this the dream destination that you always envisioned for yourself, or is this a new career that you've just kind of created for yourself? Was this always what you were planning on doing?
Yeah, that's a great question. This is never what I was planning on doing at all. I went to UAlbany. That's how I ended up in the area. And I have my master's in education. I wanted to be a teacher. And my undergrad was in European history and art history. I mean, I loved history. I wanted to be a social studies teacher. And when I got out of school in 2007, 2008, that's when all the teachers were being laid off because of the recession. And I tried for years to still become a teacher. I applied everywhere, and it just didn't work out. And I thought in 2010, I was loving hot yoga. I was doing it all the time. And I was like, maybe I'll just, you know, I'll open a studio for a year or 2 until kind of the teaching thing works out. So, you know, I never took a business class in college. Yeah, I never planned on being a business owner. I always wanted to be a teacher, and the Hot Yoga Spot opened, and I never looked back. And I'm so glad that this is where my life ended up professionally, but it certainly wasn't the plan the road I thought I'd be on.
Now, one location is difficult enough when you're owning that business. How have you been able to expand to multiple locations, and how difficult is that when you're trying to navigate every little part of keeping each place in operation? Yeah,
it's definitely challenging for sure. I'm a very organized person, and I'm a very self-motivating person. Even going to UAlbany, you know, we had 300-person lecture centers, and my friends never went, and I went every single day, you know, and I was excited to be there. So I think to be a business owner, especially with so many locations, it's really important to have that mindset of like, I'm going to show up and do the work, whether anybody knows I'm doing it, whether anybody sees me doing it, because ultimately, as a business owner, it would be really easy to shirk responsibilities and not show up for certain things. But especially with so many locations, like you need to be on it when something breaks. You need to be on it if a teacher needs a class subbed at the last minute, or one of your stores is like out of blueberries, or whatever the case may be. So there's definitely a lot of challenges when it comes to so many locations. But I think as long as you are like super organized and you have protocols and plans in place and stuff like that, it makes it a lot easier to manage.
What makes you want to have that footprint here in the Capital Region?
Yeah, so I love the Capital Region. I'm from Long Island. I came up here to go to school freshman year, and I just loved it. I loved it right away. I loved everything about the area. And I think being a business owner in the Capital Region has some really unique advantages. If I'd left the Albany area and gone back to Long Island, I'm sure I would not be in the same place I'm in now. The cost of real estate up here and the proximity, the ease to be able to get from from Latham to Albany to Del Mar, and even just like the people up here. They're great people up here. Everybody's so kind and so nurturing and so supportive. I've always felt that way. And I think as a business owner, I've always felt that way, even like over the course of the last few months with personal stuff going on, being up here is really great. And people always call it Smallbany, right? So it is a big area and a great area, but everybody kind of knows everybody. And I think even just to have businesses up here, like it's easier to spread them by word of mouth. It's easier. I owned the hot yoga spot for years before Bear Blends, and it was, people knew me from the hot yoga spot. They embraced Bear Blends when it came along because they knew me and my teachers and what kind of business I was already responsible for, and they wanted to try something new. So I think that's something that's really unique to the Capital Region for sure.
Why was Bear Blend something that you wanted to be a part of? Yeah,
that's a great question. So we had so many people coming to the hot yoga spot every single day, and this is pre-COVID too. So this is in 2018. The hot yoga spot's so busy, and people would come and do this exercise and movement and focus on their breath and their body, and then leave and go to a Burger King on the way home. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, moving your body and setting intention for yourself and being connected to your mind and your breath, I mean, those are so important. But ultimately, a really big component of health, arguably the biggest one, is what you're putting into your body and your nutrition. And I personally, there was no place in the area that I thought was using the type of quality ingredient that I wanted to have in like a quick smoothie after a yoga class, or after dropping your kids off at school, or on your lunch break from work. And I just remember thinking to myself, if there was nothing like that I could find that was like checking all the boxes, there were probably other people that felt that way too. And it turns out there were. And I wanted to put it right next to one of the hot yoga spots because I knew that people coming to the hot yoga spot cared about their health, cared about the way their body was operating, and wanted it to be as optimal as possible. And I just knew if we put it next to the hot yoga spot, those students would embrace it and at least want to try it out and see what we had to offer. And then obviously a lot of other people wanted to try it too, and here we are.
There are so many locations. Out of curiosity for myself, in coming up with a strategy of where you're going to put another location when you decide to do that, I know you're trying to go to different towns or cities that you haven't been in here in the Capital Region. Are you looking at places and what's nearby? I know the one in North Greenbush opened up right next to Anatomy.
Yep.
And it felt very appropriate.
Yeah.
That same kind of folks who are going to go work out probably are also looking for a way to fuel up pre or post workout. Is that something that you guys look at?
For sure. So especially with the hot yoga spot, it's a little bit more of a destination. So people, they're not like shopping one day and they're like, oh, a studio, I'm going to take a class right now. With the hot yoga spot, people typically look up the studio, they figure out where it is, they figure out what class time they want to go to, they plan accordingly for it, they wear their yoga clothes or they bring their stuff with them. So it's a little less important for who the co-tenants are with the hot yoga spot, just because people are going out of their way to go to that type of business. But especially for Bear, we spend a lot of time thinking about co-tenancy and just who's nearby whenever we're going to do a Bear location. We love to be near something like the hot yoga spot or like a really high-end fitness concept. Some grocery stores like Trader Joe's or Starbucks, those types of things, businesses where people are going to go pretty regularly. So, we wouldn't necessarily want to be next to the type of business that somebody goes to once a year or once every few years. But if it's, their bank where they're going every week, or the post office, or their dry cleaner, or the place they're getting their coffee every morning, or the place they're working out every day after work, those are great businesses to be next to for sure.
That's very smart.
Yeah. Wow.
Speaking of smart, what are some of those lessons you've learned along the way? Maybe some of the hard lessons that you had to learn?
Yeah. No matter what, you're going to make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. I wonder all the time if I'd gone to business school, maybe would I have made less of them, but you never know. I think the really important thing is to be able to learn from those mistakes and kind of pivot and adapt when needed. And I think sometimes the people that have a harder time in business are the ones that think that they kind of know all the answers or they have everything figured out, because ultimately business is always going to evolve. The needs of clients are always going to evolve. Technology available to you is always going to be changing and evolving. And you need to be able to learn new things and make quick decisions and just pivot when needed in order to be successful. And I think that's something that's hard to get used to and maybe hard for some people to do. So I think that's really important. And then just having grace with yourself when you do make mistakes, because obviously they will happen. It won't do you any good to beat yourself up and agonize over them, lose sleep over them. So just figure out, what could I have done differently? How will I do it differently next time? And then just kind of move forward from there for sure.
You opened up earlier this month,
Yeah.
for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, about your own personal challenges, which I believe was unexpected. Do you feel like talking about that right now?
Yes, I would be happy to talk about it.
So tell me a little bit about the health battle that you've been going through.
Yeah, so I found out in March of this year that I had breast cancer. I had no idea, it seems so silly to say it, but I had no idea that I could ever get breast cancer because nobody in my family has ever had it. I don't have any like genetic markers for it. I don't smoke, I don't drink, I breastfed my kids. You know, I literally didn't think it could happen. And it happened in March, and I found out at a routine doctor's appointment. I didn't even have symptoms, I didn't feel anything. They found it for me. And obviously this year has been very challenging. But I decided really early on in my journey that because of the Hot Yoga Spot and Bare Blends and all the women that follow us on social media and get the monthly newsletter and just happen to know who I am, I decided that even though I'm a private person, I wanted to share it because there's got to be other people like me that just don't think it could happen to them if it doesn't run in their family, and obviously that's not the case. So that's why I'm happy to answer questions about it, because awareness is so important and finding it early is so important, and I'm like so passionate now about just making sure that other people kind of learn from my mistake and go to their screenings and do their screenings, go to their doctors, and just stay on top of their health.
Why did you feel like this month was the right time to have that conversation and share your story?
Yeah, so first of all, with October being Breast Cancer Awareness Month, that's something that, the timing of that just seemed right and made sense. I also really wanted to fundraise, and Making Strides is this month, and like so many people are used to giving in October to help raise money. And my community through the Hot Yoga Spot and Bare Blends and my family, my friends, we've raised like $30,000 just in 1 month.
Wow.
So I'm like so proud and grateful and thankful to everybody that contributed to that. And then also personally, I'm in a really good space with it now. Obviously, I found out the last day of March, and the 2 months after that were like as hard as could be, just crying every night and worried about everything and thinking nonstop about things I could have done differently. And then surgery, and then results of surgery, and then starting chemo. It's been a journey, but like mentally and emotionally, enough time had passed that like I felt okay talking about it, and I felt like I was in a really good space. The first few months were hard. It's always hard in this situation, but it's easier now than it was, and it just, everything kind of, all the timing came together, and it felt like it was right.
What was that feeling of just that positive response that you did receive from your community? Because I know as soon as you made that announcement, there was a lot of people who were rallying behind you and had a lot to say. How did that make you feel?
It was incredible. I'm such a private person, and I always have been. I share almost nothing of myself on social media. And I was nervous. The last few days of September, I was getting really nervous. I was committed to doing it, but I was nervous. And then October 1 came, and I shared my video, and within like 2 or 3 days, it had like 15,000 views, 18,000 views. I think now it's up to like 25,000 views. And I mean, within minutes of sharing it, people were messaging me, and the outpouring was incredible. So many people saying that they were scheduling doctor's appointments because of it. Like so many people. The month is over, so I shared it 30 days ago, and I'm still getting people. Every day I get a text from somebody like, I'm at the doctor right now thanks to you, or like somebody Instagram messages me, or somebody emails me that they had just been diagnosed and that my video helped give them strength or confidence or whatever they needed in their battles. So it's been so overwhelming in such a positive way, and I'm very grateful that I made the decision I did to share it, and I feel like it did help others. Obviously it makes me emotional to think about, but I'm super grateful. Like there's no words to express how grateful I am.
It kind of goes back to earlier in our conversation why you chose the Capital Region to start your business and have your businesses expand. And when something like this happens that's so outside of your business, it kind of reinforces those decisions, because the people that you surround yourself with leads to your own success. So clearly you are in a good place because of the support system that you have.
For sure.
After hearing news like that, I think it's easy to step away from all of your responsibilities, but in some cases you can't. You have a family, you have people who are relying on you for paychecks. How have you been able to manage every single part of it?
Yeah, so like I said before, I'm one of those people, like I show up and I do the work, and that's just like ingrained in who I am. So even when all of this is going on, there's certain people at work who I've leaned on. My partner at Bear has done like everything Bear has needed for months. I mean, I'm still showing up for things and helping as much as I can, but she's really taken the reins there. And with the studio, there's a few people who have stepped up and done more when I needed. And right after my surgery, the teachers were all amazing about like not needing anything last minute and not really kind of having any of those emergencies that sometimes they have. So that was really helpful. Everybody's been really great. I'm really fortunate for that. Even besides work, just like the people in our own life, it's amazing how people rally around you in this situation. And at my son's last school, they just did trunk or treat, and they set up like a beautiful pink booth to like help raise money. And you know, the football team in town sold shirts, and they're donating money to the cause. Like, it's just been amazing how people in the Capital Region, both professionally, personally, like everybody's kind of come together in their own way. There's even actually Nancy from SpinRev who, you know, connected us, and a bunch of my other friends in the area that own different gyms. They all offered to hold classes and donate the money back. It's been amazing. So like business owners coming together and just people, human beings coming together, been a beautiful thing to see for sure.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And so what are you looking forward to moving forward? Are you looking at expanding your footprint? Are you looking at keeping things how they are? You're a very driven person in that you can't, no matter what happens, you can't really turn that off.
Right.
So what are you set on right now?
Yeah, it's so hard to say. I'm one of those people that knows it when they see it, you know? I'll never forget when I opened my first studio, my dad was like, oh, you know, you have one, like, that's great, you'll do another. And I was like, no, like, I just need the one's enough. And then the opportunity came for 2, and I was like, yeah, we'll do 2. And he's like, you'll have 3. And I was like, no, 2 is all I need. And obviously here we are. So I don't have any hard plans right now for like, this is the next step. I'll know it when I see it. I'm definitely open to wherever the hot yoga spot and the Bear Blends journey take me. And I always try to make the best decision possible, you know, for myself, for my family, for the people that I work with, for the community at large. So I'll be interested to find out when you find out. We'll know together.
Sounds great. And before I go, I would love to ask you if there's any words that you really live by or anything that you would maybe want to share with our audience as far as little pearls of wisdom, whether it applies to your personal life or your professional life.
Yeah, I'm so glad you asked. One thing I always say anytime I'm asked a similar question is do it before you're ready. There's so many people I've heard over the years, anytime I talk at an event for business owners or anything like that, the question always comes up. And so often people say like, you know, I'm gonna do it as soon as I finish school, or I'm gonna do it as soon as I get my ducks in a row, or as soon as my kids go off to college, that's when I'm gonna do it. And I would just caution that the timing's never gonna be perfect. I should not have opened my first studio at 22 years old when, you know, I didn't have any credit. My stepdad needed to co-sign the loan for me. Like, I had no business opening a business then, but I did it and I worked really hard and I made it happen. The timing will never be right. So if there's something that you really want, professionally, personally, whatever the case may be, set your sights on making it happen now and then just do the work involved to see it through. Because if you wait for the timing to be perfect, it's never gonna happen.
Wow, great advice.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jess. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Yeah, me too. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for watching.